The countdown is on, but you're not alone. This is Countdown to College, your weekly guide from Education Quest Foundation, here to help you plan, apply, and pay for college one step at a time. I'm your host, Gage, and I am happy to be joined once again by Alex Jurgens, a scholarship and grant specialist here at Education Quest. Hi, Alex. Thank you for coming back on the podcast.
Of course, Gage. Hello. I'm happy to be back again.
Yeah, in case you missed it, we just did a whole episode with Alex, kind of breaking down the basics on scholarships. There's lots of good info there, so go check that episode out. But with this episode, I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into actually writing essays
Yeah.
because honestly, they can kind of, make or break your scholarship or your college application sometimes. So, Alex, let's just jump right in. How important is the college essay in the admissions process compared to some other factors like GPA or test scores?
Yeah. I mean, the college essay can be especially important through the process, especially if you're looking to apply to a highly selective college. So when you think about like a test score or GPA, that's not really telling much about a student. It's telling like how great they're doing in school, how well they prepared for the SAT, ACT. But the essay really helps review committee members know the personality of a student. They get an idea of what are the students' interests, what are their values, what are their future goals, what are their career plans. And this really can be a way to separate yourself from other applicants who have similar test scores or GPAs. So all factors of admissions are really important. But if a school is more highly selective in their admissions, then the essay is a key piece for them to make the final decision on who they want to be in their next freshman class.
And Alex, who typically asks for these essays? Is it just colleges, or are there some scholarship organizations that also require them?
Yeah, both entities, so both the college and a scholarship organization, commonly will ask for essays. So for colleges, it depends on the school and what type of essay that they want from the student. So broadly, they might ask for a personal statement. Some colleges might want they might have specific essays that they want the student to answer. It really just depends on the college and really how their admissions process works. But some colleges, even though the essay might not be as important to their admissions, but they might include them in their admissions process because that's a way for students to also be eligible for scholarships and other financial aid offers. That could just be additional money the student can receive from that school. But scholarship programs do commonly ask for an essay. It is arguably the most important part of a scholarship application. It tends to be the part that is scored the highest. So I always like to tell students, always be prepared to write an essay and then be pleasantly surprised if you don't have to write one. But you do want to go in the expectation that you are going to have to write essays both for college admissions and for scholarships. And if you don't have to and you don't need to worry about that, then that's a huge plus.
Yeah, I do remember my senior year. It was kind of essay writing season, my entire
Yeah.
senior year, just one after the other.
Yeah, exactly.
And so when it comes to actually writing these essays, I mean, the title of this episode is How to Be the Main Character in Your College Essay. So what does that mean?
Yeah. I like to think of it as I think there's that saying that's come up the past couple of years of like use that main character energy. So really the college essay is about you. It's you sharing your story. It's sharing your goals. It's sharing more about yourself, which sounds really intimidating because like, wait, I have to write a whole essay about me. But this is just a way for you though to show a college and or a scholarship organization that you are the ideal candidate. And you think about a main character, It's really your space to show lessons and to do self-reflections of what you've learned in your life and to think about how you learn those lessons and how you're going to apply them into your college career and your future job career. So think about your favorite character from a movie, a TV series, a play. At the end of whatever storyline that is, that character learned a lesson and something that helped them change for the better and helps them to grow. And so you really want to think about yourself in that context when it comes to college essays is how can I be the main character? Meaning, what is a journey or story that I want to share? But most importantly, what did I learn from it and how did I grow from it?
Yeah, having to write about myself was definitely the
Yeah.
hardest part of it all. And I know it's
Mhm.
hard for a lot of other people too.
Yeah.
But it is really your chance to, let yourself shine for once.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so from your perspective, Alex, what makes an essay, memorable to an admissions officer or a scholarship reviewer?
Yeah. I mean, the most important thing is to be authentic, is to make sure that you are using your voice, that you are letting yourself like show up as you are. So that's what admissions counselors, that's what scholarship programs want to see. They want to know you. They don't want to know a version of you that you think they expect them to see. They actually want to know who you are. And when it comes to how you should write the essays, you want to give specific examples. So if you say something in the lines of like, I'm hardworking, I love helping people, you want to make sure that you're sharing specific stories of how that looks. So again, these folks are trying to visualize who you are and trying to make an emotional connection with your story. So you don't want to go into broad statements and not give any details. It's better to share specifics of who you are, share stories that you feel comfortable sharing, and then also thinking about a self-reflection of, again, how did I learn a lesson from the story that I'm sharing with you? And that's really what stands out to review committees because they want to get to know who you are, but most importantly, they want to know what are the skills and lessons you've learned and how are you going to use them in your future?
Yeah, you brought up, bringing that authenticity.
Mhm.
Where's the line though? Like, how personal should a student get between, being authentic and oversharing too much?
Yeah, and that is such a valid question. And that is something that can be intimidating because, first off, you do want to be vulnerable in your essays because vulnerability is a strength. And it is something that review committee members they want to see. They want to get to know you. Again, they're not looking at your GPA and ACT at this time. When they're looking at their essay, they're trying to get to know who you are. So you do want to build that emotional connection. But when you think about where that line is, when it comes to the vulnerability and what's good in an essay, you do want to show it like an arc. So a beginning, middle, end of your story, of the story that you're sharing. So you want to end it with the skills, the lessons that you've learned, and how you're going to use them in your future. And it's about the growth that you've had. They love review committee members and just working with them and hearing their comments. They love hearing the student when they're talking about the challenges, but most importantly, what did they gain from it? How did they overcome it? And then what are they using? How are they using that in the rest of their life? If you feel though that you have a story that you're writing, but you have not emotionally processed, healed, learned a lesson from it, that is not the story that you want to share. The review committee members, they don't want to read an essay that's strictly just complaining or just trauma dumping, as it's sometimes called, of like just sharing a lot of information that can be overwhelming. But at the end, they're like, I don't know if you've learned anything from this. So if you're in the middle of writing a story and you're like, I didn't learn anything from this, or wow, I still feel like I have a lot of emotions behind this that I have not dealt with, that's probably not the story that you want to share because that could be seen as oversharing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. When it comes to writing these essays, and there's so many, you can Google what's a good scholarship essay structure, and you'll see the same thing over and over again. What are some ways, infusing like the authenticity we just talked about? What are some ways to tell your story that are fresh and compelling?
Yeah, hearing from other folks that are in review committee positions or volunteer for those opportunities, they love hearing more about a specific story versus just hearing something that's really broad or students who are just restating their resume. So when you're thinking about something to write about, think about an area that you're passionate about, that you have an interest in, or if you see there's an issue in your community that you think needs to be addressed, write about that. But most importantly, write more about a specific conversation or an experience that you had in that area and share that as your story. And then also make sure that you are tying it back, though, to the reasons why you want to go to college or why you feel like you'd be the best candidate for that scholarship. But I say to make it fresh and compelling is really just making sure you're being more specific and that you're sharing one or two stories versus sharing multiple stories that there doesn't seem to be a connecting theme.
Now, Alex, when it comes to, writing essays over and over again, can a student reuse an essay or repurpose an essay for multiple applications, or do you think it's better to write something new every time?
I I'm in the belief that you can definitely repurpose. It saves you time, it saves you energy. So it's totally fine to do that. But there are some caveats with that. So you do want to make sure that if you're going to use other essays for other colleges or other scholarships, that you are making revisions, that you are making sure that you are answering the questions being asked of you. So you want to make sure that you are making changes, but it is not uncommon for students to repurpose their essays. So if you have not done so already, it might be worth you writing a personal statement. So that can be that's a more broad essay that a lot of colleges might have students write. So some students like to use that as a template. So they might have one personal statement, but then see if there's parts of that personal statement where you can make revisions and changes that can apply for other colleges or scholarship applications.
Now, let's say, we got this essay wrapped up, we think it's finished. Does it make sense to have someone else review your essay? And if so, who's the best person to ask for that?
Yeah, totally. It is so important that you have other folks read your essay. Even if you've read it 20 times and you feel like you've caught all of the errors and you feel like, yep, this is the perfect essay, still have someone else review it just because, we need an outside perspective. So, some great folks that you can ask could be a high school English teacher or another writing instructor, your school counselor, a trusted adult, so a mentor, a coach, maybe a friend of the family. You could ask a family member, but there's a little, I would say with that, your family member might have a little bias towards you, meaning that they think you are the best candidate for everything and you wrote the best essay. So you definitely want to have folks that can read that can be a little more objective and give you advice. Also find folks that you trust and folks that you feel will give you more positive feedback versus someone you might feel like, wow, I actually don't feel good after their feedback. Like folks that really want to help you do well and succeed and that can give you an objective perspective of what changes you can make on your essay.
Yeah, even as a, communications and like marketing specialist, like I still have to have people proofread just because I don't
Mhm.
trust my eyes sometimes.
Agreed. Yeah, I need it as well.
Now, again, when it comes to kind of polishing up essays and stuff,
Mm,
and this is a newer topic that it's pretty, pretty popular right now, and there's lots
mhm.
of conversation around it. Is it okay to use, AI, artificial intelligence tools to polish a college essay, or does that risk crossing a line?
Yeah, so this is a hot topic, and this is such a common question that we hear quite a bit of where's that line of using AI with essays? So here's the thing, AI is here, and I'd be a hypocrite if I said don't use it when I use it quite a bit for my work. However, there are there are ethical ways to use it, especially when it comes to college essays. So first, you still need to write your essays. You still need to have original work. So you still need to do the work and not just rely on AI to write your entire essay. Big reason is that, again, it's not ethical. And at the same point, it's not your voice. AI does not know who you are. It's not you. But you can use AI to help with checking for grammatical errors. If you have a sentence or two that you feel are really awkward, you can say, "Hey, ask it to give you some ideas of maybe how to reword it or help you with different word choices also." So there are ways that you can still use AI, and I like to use it to check my own work sometimes and just make sure that like grammatically the things I'm saying are correct and they sound fine, but you don't want AI to write your entire essay. So again, it just doesn't feel right when you do that because it's not you and it's not your voice. But also review committee members, they are very in tune with the wording that students use versus what might be AI generated. And I have seen essays lose points or not be reviewed because committees said, no, this is an AI written essay. So you definitely, there's ways that you can use it, but you still want to make sure that you are writing the essays and doing the work.
All right, Alex, I have one final question for you.
Right.
Let's say there's a student, they're sitting at a desk, they are staring at a blank page, and they don't know where to begin. What's your advice?
Well, as someone who also deals with just staring at a screen sometimes, I think it's really important just to give yourself permission to write a bad first draft and to give yourself some grace that the first draft is not going to be the draft you're going to use that you're not going to submit for your college essay. And when you're staring at the blank screen, even just typing out like, I don't know what to write. I don't know what to say. This is really dumb. I don't know, even know how to answer this question. Doing that helps your brain actually unload the anxiety that you might be feeling when you're writing your essays. And what happens is once you start writing just anything, then you start to actually figure out like what you do want to write. You start like getting ideas of, oh, this might be a good idea to share. If you are someone that likes to write freely, I'd say journaling is a great way to start too, just to like give yourself the space where it's just for you to write out your thoughts, your concerns, your anxieties, something that is just on your mind, and just using that as a template just to get your thoughts out there. So, but I'd say to students, don't expect your first draft to be the draft that you're going to submit for your essay. Let yourself have a bad first draft. And this is a huge lesson that I had to learn, especially when I was in high school, because I had a little bit of perfectionism built in me. But I had to stumble through and realize, like, oh no, I can go back and I can change this essay. This is not what I have to stick with. So just write, type something out, even if you don't know. Write, I don't know. And if you have to do that for a whole paragraph, that's fine. Eventually, though, you will find what you want to write, and you can make sure that you're adding that and creating the essay that's going to be the one you want to submit.
Okay, that wraps us up. Thank you again, Alex, for joining us.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. This is great.
And to our audience, again, if you ever need any help with anything college related, you can contact an Education Quest office near you for free help. You can find our contact information or schedule an appointment at educationquest.org. While you are there, sign up for the weekly Countdown to College email that is filled with college tips and tricks. And finally, help us just get this message out to as many students and families as possible by subscribing to this podcast on your favorite platform and hitting the like button on this episode. Thank you for watching and listening, and we will see you next week.